It used to be that calling a film a turkey was an insult. Nowadays, there's actually an audience for some of the worst movies ever made.
Baby, you are gonna go broke showing turkeys like these.
Now we're talking turkey.
Gobble, gobble, motherfucker.
It's turkey time. Gobble, gobble.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Let's Talk Turkeys. I'm Movie Miss, and I'm here with my co-host, Miss Nikki Flicks. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
And today we're talking the 2007 movie starring Will Smith, I Am Legend. And to join us in this conversation today is a really big fan of Will Smith, but this movie in particular, which is why she's joining us today. Please welcome to the podcast, Miss J.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm pretty good.
You
Ready to talk about this movie? Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So in case everyone's wondering why we're talking about it on Let's Talk Turkeys, it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 68% critics and 68% audience. So the same score on both sides of the fence. But I hate this movie personally, not a fan. So that's why it's a turkey, because it's a turkey to me. The movie is 1 hour, 40 minutes of runtime with credits, directed by Francis Lawrence. And I did look him up. Nick, I know this kind of stuff interests you with the music. He did a lot of music videos, including a Will Smith video.
Not surprising.
Yeah, but he did direct before this Constantine with Keanu Reeves. Impressive. I love that movie.
Yeah, I like that movie. I like that movie a lot, actually.
And then in this movie, the top five cast would be Will Smith, Alice Braga, Charlie Tahan, Willow Smith, and Sally Richardson Whitfield. So not a real big cast in this one. It is based on I Am Legend, a 1954 novel by Richard Matheson. And then let's real quick, a plot recap. So for anybody that doesn't know, here's the plot from IMDb. Years after a plague kills most of mankind and transforms the rest into monsters, the sole survivor in New York City struggles to valiantly find a cure. Real quick, I do not remember myself, but do either of you remember the first time you saw this movie and how you felt about it, what you thought? Because I did not go to the theater to see it.
I can tell you, I didn't see it in the theater. I think I saw it when it was released on video, as I was doing at that time, having a small child to raise. I would watch things on video. We went through a period of time. So for the listeners, we'll talk and you'll be like, wait, huh? Yeah, Jay is my daughter. So we went through a period of time where she was just like, Mom, show me the goods. Show me all the good stuff. I want all the good movies. I've taken it all in. Just a period of time where every weekend was what's on the marquee this weekend, Mom.
You raised her right.
Yeah, this was one of those movies. I would say probably maybe 2011 would put her at about 10 years old, which I felt was right because she was just getting into the tip of the iceberg with horror. What I felt was age appropriate, knowing her as a kid.
Well, we'll talk about this later, but this was PG-13.
Right. This was one of those movies that I thought fell nicely into dip your toe into the water of horror, but nothing too, it wasn't The Exorcist, So I introduced her to it probably when she was about the age of 10, and she instantly fell in love with it. It was one that she went back and rewatched numerous times after that. Jay, what are your thoughts? Do you remember the first time you saw it?
I remember really liking it a lot and really like feeling Will Smith's kind of character, I guess, like through him. I think that he really made that character, and I guess he made me feel a lot of emotions. It made me feel something, which not very many movies had that effect on me yet, I suppose. So
that would explain. Yeah, it makes a lasting impression then on you at that point. Yeah,
definitely.
So let's jump in to the plot here. The movie opens with voiceover of sports announcers talking about baseball before we even see anything. And then it cuts to opening on a reporter giving a medical interview or updates on an interview with the Dr. Alice Crippen, played by Emma Thompson. Was that Emma Thompson?
Oh, yeah.
So not in this movie, except for this scene. I was so disappointed when that happened. I love her.
She wasn't in it more.
Right.
Yeah.
So she is saying that they've got viruses that they're mutating on a genetic level, and they're doing clinical trials for curing cancer. Fade to black, and then we open on what only I can call like a 28 days later type of scene, with abandoned cars and empty streets, and then we get the words on the screen that tells us it's 3 years later. Now, when this movie opened, I had all the feels, all the vibes, like this is going to be so good, like zombie movie. My expectations were high right out the gate, I guess. Is why I'm trying to tell everybody why I hate this movie so much, because I felt super let down because I was so excited. So everything looks run down, empty, plants have overgrown. Everything is very silent and very still, which I thought was a good choice on the director's part because it sets that mood. Then we see Will Smith, we don't know his name yet, driving in a car with a very large, very beautiful German Shepherd by his side.
Sam, gotta love the dog.
Yes, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
So then there's not, I did read somebody's opinion on this movie later after I was done watching it and taking my own notes. And he said exactly what I was thinking this whole first almost hour of the film. There's almost no talking except for the flashback scenes. You have to basically just be along for the ride and experience kind of what they're experiencing. And it was hard to get into this because I'm not a fan of CGI. And in this scene, he's chasing a large herd of CGI deer, which makes sense because they couldn't really get real deer to jump over a bunch of cars and stuff. But they're running through the streets and he's apparently hunting.
Yeah, I was under the impression that he was maybe looking for fresh food that's not from a can or preservatives.
Okay, that tracks. That's kind of what I thought, because he does have his gun. And then we see he goes by like Union Station and there's a bunch of Broadway signs. So I'm guessing he's in New York at this point.
Yeah, no, he's in New York City,
Is it?
and that is most definitely Times Square.
Did you notice the billboard of Batman and Superman with the logos? in the
No.
back?
No.
Oh, yes. They predicted the Batman Superman. Thank you very much.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
So he and his dog, Sam, stalk a deer on foot. And just as he's about to shoot at it, a lioness attacks it from the side. And then he's debating, I guess, whether or not to still shoot the lioness. But then the lion and the baby cub come out too, because I guess that's going to be their dinner. And an alarm goes off on his watch indicating sunset. So he and Sam take off. And then we get the title card. Boom. I Am Legend. Opening of the film gets me pretty excited, I gotta say.
Me
At this
too.
point, I'm in.
Yep.
So then he pulls up to a house in a different car and proceeds to pour a clear liquid all over the steps outside. Any idea what that liquid is?
I'm not certain. It is cold in New York, if I know that correctly. So maybe it was water and he was anticipating that it would freeze. Maybe it was something he could light on fire. Oh, it was gasoline, I bet is what it was, because when he blows the bombs later on, there's like a ring around the house that kind of forms.
Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah, I guess that does track. Yeah, if he's going to pour gasoline, fresh gasoline, a little bit on the steps every night, just in case some of them are crowded around that front door, he could light them on fire. That makes sense.
So inside, we see that he's got generators running and a fully stocked kitchen, like Walking Dead people would be jealous. He had so much stuff in that kitchen.
Yep, he's had 3 years to pillage every residence and collect all that food, which he takes the time to keep. I mean, it's probably alphabetized at this point. All just how stockpiled and organized it is, to me, like, you get the idea when he's moving around in the kitchen there. Like, he has really been at this for a very long time by himself, and he can't possibly eat all of this food, but it's just the only thing he can think to do.
Yeah, something that I wanted to touch on that kind of ties to that is the fact that he feeds Sam human food. I'm sure there is plenty of dog food left over, but he chooses, because he just has so much of it, I think, to just allow her a meal as well. That way he feels like he's, preparing food for two.
Yeah, it's so sweet. They sit down and have dinner together. And then he gives Sam a bath and his watch alarm goes off. So he proceeds to completely lock down the house, doors, windows, with these large metal panels with latches. And I'm thinking, how long did that take? Like, that's a pretty good setup he's got there.
Not gonna lie, I would kind of try to poke holes in that if it weren't for the fact that he is supposed to be like a military scientist and whatnot. So I assume that he was like prepared and maybe the house was already built like that before. I don't know. Like I don't I would hope he didn't, spend all that time building a complicated machine like that.
Yeah, my notes are like, how long did that take?
Well, again, he's had 3 years since everything hit the fan and Manhattan became deserted. So he's had a lot of time to go around and pick up any resources. And my impression with that Time magazine cover on his refrigerator is that he perhaps was the Surgeon General. He is like a medical doctor. He was hugely important within the military, the government, as a scientist and as a doctor. He maybe is an engineer as well, like super, super smart guy. So yeah, he probably has had plenty of time to design and build all of that to keep him and Sam protected.
Well, speaking of protected, we then see him and Sam curled up at bedtime in a tub. He's dressed and is holding a gun.
I was going to mention something that I totally forgot about until just now. When he is kind of like when he gets home and he's like making dinner for him and Sam and stuff, and then his watch goes off, he has a moment where he kind of dissociates, like his mind kind of isn't in his body anymore for a few minutes. The sound goes out a little bit and we hear Sam barking, but it's incredibly muffled as if he's like underwater. And it's like this moment of like PTSD kind of, I think, on his part.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And I got that vibe as well.
Yeah, he's very isolated and he gets snapped out of his little dream world where him and Sam are just going about their happy daily family life and remembers,
Right.
oh shit, time to lock up. The sun's going down.
And Sam helps him almost in a way that like a therapy dog would, where she immediately comes to his aid and starts barking at him and is like, hey, like wake up. Later on, when he gets himself into some deep trouble, she sits right down beside him and continues to bark at him. It's almost like she's like his service dog.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we cut to a flashback. He's dreaming while he's sleeping, and we find out he's a colonel, and his name is Robert, and he is rushing home for his family. We learn that the cell service is down. There's chaos everywhere. The military guys are with him, and we further learn that they're about 30 minutes out before they're gonna do something critical. So he grabs his wife and daughter, and they take off. So he tells his wife, take food and water enough for 2 weeks. And his wife asks if it's gone airborne. That's where we get an indication that there's something viral, some infection, and it's possibly airborne. He says maybe. We hear on the car radio, the president issues a military quarantine of New York, and we get to see little puppy Sam in the back seat with their daughter. The next scene is he wakes up in bed and proceeds about his day to work out. And he's even got Sam on the treadmill, which I thought was so cute.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed that.
He goes downstairs to his lab. He turns on his computer and starts recording himself saying, Dr. Robert Neville, September 5th, 2012, GA series serum 391 animal trials. So he has a bunch of cages of rats there in the lab where I guess he's testing out his bloods that he's made a serum with because he's clearly immune to whatever this virus was. That's the vibe I got. Having seen this more than once, I know what's happening, but on first time watch is kind of what I'm trying to look at it as.
Right. Yeah. First time watch, my impression of this is Emma Thompson in the beginning clearly stated, we took the measles virus, did some genetic mutations, played God with it a little bit, redesigned it to cure cancer. It now infects a person, and instead of giving them measles, it cures their cancer. So viruses do what viruses do. They mutate and adapt. And all of this, obviously, right now, today in 2021, hits very close to home. The idea of the militarization, the quarantine of Manhattan, like the temperature and retinal scans and all that, this is scary shit, but the virus is mutating. There are a handful of people around the world who do not become infected. Even if it becomes airborne, they're immune to this version of the measles virus that's been created. He's one of them. So it makes sense if he is a doctor, perhaps, someone who is an immunologist, that kind of thing, he would use his own blood in order to create a cure for the infection. And so that's what I got, is that he's using his blood as a starting point to try to cure this.
Okay. And then we do see just briefly at the end of that scene that all the rats seem to be having issue with it, except for one. One seems to be doing okay. And then we cut to he and Sam take his gun, hop into an SUV, and they head on down to the video store. Remember when
Oh,
those
wow. Yes. I miss going to Blockbuster.
were right?
You can still
So-
visit the last blockbuster on earth. It's in Bend, Oregon, folks. There's a great documentary on Netflix about it.
I heard about that. So yeah, they go to this video store and he's got the keys to it. So they go in, and I like that he's talking to the mannequins he has obviously staged outside, and he's named one of them. I want to say Fred, was it? And he's
Ed.
wearing like a pink hoodie or a red hoodie. He has a weird conversation with the mannequin behind the counter when he's quote unquote renting his videos, telling him he's gonna talk. Asking her, who's that female mannequin at the back? Who is she? Who is that back there?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about this scene because I think it's really interesting the way that some people may perceive this as crazy. Like at this point, it's like, wow, this man's clearly lost his mind. He'd be talking to mannequins. Or if you look at it from another point of view, though, it's like, is this actually an incredibly smart thing to do? Because he's kind of maintaining that human contact that he is lacking in the best way that he can. I think it's honestly like it's a little weird, but it seems like a healthy coping mechanism for the fact that he's been alone for so long. Like it almost by hitting on this random pretend girl over in the corner of the video store and talking to a cashier, quote unquote talking, I think that it might possibly help him kind of feel normal. So in a way, it's not so crazy.
Okay, so then this is where the yin and the yang of the conversation are going to happen. That was a fantastic point that you just made, and it's totally valid. On my point of view, I think that it's ridiculous, and I'll tell you why. He is supposedly, as Nick mentioned, a high-ranking official, maybe Surgeon General, super smart, maybe an engineer, virologist, just super, super smart human being. It's barely been 3 years. Really? Like he needs to do this weird staging, and it's been going on for a while now. So it didn't even take 3 years. I call bullshit. I can go weeks without talking to anybody. I don't need to set up mannequins. So I had a problem with that. That's just my perspective.
As someone who's sort of in the middle with this movie, someone who has a medical degree and maybe understands quite a bit about human psychology, he may have begun doing this preemptively as a way to stave off the insanity inducing isolation. That's how I see it. Like he was smart enough to get ahead of that and start doing this because he knows that's going to become a big problem. He's already talking to the dog as if the dog is a person talking back to him. So he maybe is trying to think ahead, and all people are different. See, so Miss, you and I, we're definite homebodies, introverts. Like I can go a week without speaking to anybody and I don't suffer mental consequences for it. Not everyone is like us. Perhaps he is an extreme extrovert. He had a wife and a kid and tons of people looking up to him that he was in command of. Maybe he's an extreme extrovert and knows that about himself as well. So I see it as like medically he was being preemptive, knowing himself.
That's a good point. He does talk to Sam too, which I will admit I do talk to my dog Sandy. But I don't expect her to talk back to me. But he does tell Sam outside when they're leaving. He promises he'll get the courage to talk to her tomorrow.
Yeah.
So then they go to an apartment building, which you can clearly see by the map he's got. He's slowly, methodically raiding places for supplies. I don't care for the fact that he takes Sam everywhere with him. This is where that started for me. You guys are animal lovers. Please at least agree with me on this. He should not be taking Sam everywhere, right?
No, I will absolutely agree with you in this case because you make a very good point. I do think that like later on, as we see it, it starts to become a problem when Sam goes running off into a building and he ends up having to go in there after her. But before that, like, to me, it's just kind of like, it's been 3 years. He's clearly got lots of food and lots of supplies, which means he's scavenged plenty of times. It seems that he takes Sam with him every time. And so I'm like, you mean to tell me this is the first time a wild animal has run past and Sam has gone batshit over it? I don't know if I buy that. So with that, I see your point and I agree.
Yes, I agree. He clearly isn't thinking like a husband and father anymore. He's not worrying about Sam's best interests. He's just trying to stave off the loneliness by taking her with him wherever he goes, which is not a smart decision. It's the first of the stupid things we see him doing. And so, yeah, I definitely am right there with you, Miss. It makes no sense that he would put the dog in danger by taking her everywhere.
Thank you. We all agree at least on one thing, right? The dog unifies us.
Yeah.
All right. So then we get a voiceover as he's driving. It basically says his name, that he's a survivor, where he's living. He's broadcasting it on all the AM radios. He tells the people he will be at the South Street Seaport every day at midday. So basically, he can provide them food, shelter, and security. So he's constantly broadcasting so that anybody left could come find him. I won't go too far ahead in the plot, but we do get a little tidbit later that he clearly has believed that everybody's dead and there's no survivors. So why the fuck would you do that? You think everybody's gone. Why are you doing that?
Because you never know, I suppose. But I do kind of see your point here. Later on when Anna shows up and she toys with the idea of maybe there being other survivors, he gets incredibly defensive and immediately shuts her down and is like, no, there's no way there's anyone else. There's no way, everyone's dead. And it's like, you sound so sure. Yeah. So I can kind of see why you'd feel that way. Yeah.
You got to remember that he is on an island,
which he knows was shut down by the military. So I'm like, how the fuck do you think anybody's left after 3 years on your island?
Because he has never been outside of Manhattan. He has never been outside of the city since this happened. His wife and daughter attempted to leave. He stayed put. So he realizes there is an off chance that he's not the only person outside of the island. There could be other people who, like him, don't get sick. It's a possibility. It's a slim one. And he's likely the only person there as far as he knows.
So he and Sam spot and chase a deer through the streets and into a dark building. I was so furious in this scene that I could have cried. They get chased by a bunch of what look like people, mutated, weird looking people. We're not sure what they are. Sam gets out, but Robert gets jumped and falls out a window, and they fall off of him, these CGI people. And we see that one dies, I think, after a few minutes of being exposed to the sun. That scene happened so fast. Did I get that right?
Yes, you're correct. And I believe it's because they're supposed to be vampires.
Well, again, we can discuss like the whole thing about that where it ties into the other iterations at the end here. But again, I was like, what is happening? Are these people? Why are they naked? Why are they kind of white? And yeah, I could see the vampire vibe because the sun, I guess, explodes one of them or burns him.
That's what I got from it. First viewing was these creatures look like some sort of zombie / vampire hybrid type deal. So I was kind of expecting like a zombie thing. And then they seem to be a little more vampiric. He jumps out and then the sunlight is damaging to them. I made the assumption on my first viewing that these are the people that the virus messed up. I made that assumption immediately. This is what the virus did to the people it didn't kill.
When they get away, he yells at Sam that you got to pay attention. And I immediately yelled for Sam. I said, fuck you, asshat, right at him. If Sam could talk, that's what Sam would have said. But we do get the little exposition bit there where he does explain that Sam can get infected by exposure, but he can't. So that's where it's put out in the open now for us to make obvious. Sam is still in danger if he gets attacked. Will Smith, totally fine, can't get it. He tells Sam, if I'm not back by dark, just leave. And he leaves Sam in the car and he proceeds back to the place and where they were, and he sets a trap and he uses his blood to lure out one of the creatures, and it gets sucked up into a trap, a tarp, and he takes it back to his lab. Now, in this scene, one of the mutant things, I want to call this one like the leader, the alpha male, yells out the door because he sees him taking what we find out is a woman specimen. At this point in the movie, though, all I could see was CGI mouth that opens abnormally long, more than a human's mouth would open when you yell. I'm guessing the virus mutates us to CGI abilities like that. It's so bad, you guys. I'm sorry.
I'll jump in here and say it's really, other than the fact that I really, really hate the theatrical ending. I hate the studio ending. I prefer the alternate ending. It's the only ending the movie should have. Other than that, my only complaint, real sincere complaint with this movie is the quality of the CGI. Even in 2007, it did not look good. For the time, it did not look good. They look cartoony. They don't look human enough. This is like a Polar Express moment where they just look very non-human, right? They look dead in the eyes, that they're weird. The CGI was not done properly and it doesn't work very well.
I think so, because when I was younger and I watched it, I actually liked it because it scared the hell out of me, because of how like non-human it looked. But now looking back on it, I'm like, that's kind of silly. But at the time, it actually scared the pants off of me because of this weird, almost human but not quite thing that it had going on, I guess. In a weird
That
way, it
makes
kind of
sense.
resonated with me at the time. So I totally agree with you guys and what you're saying now. Part of the reason I love it so much is because of how I felt watching it the first time, and the first time it was scary to me.
I think if the quality of the CGI had been better, what you're picking up on, Miss, with the idea of their mouth opening too wide, methinks this is sort of the larger morality point of the story, which is these people, by being infected by this, are evolving, if you will, or developing abilities that uninfected humans don't have. And that's one of them. If the CGI worked better, it wouldn't be so off-putting, though.
So back at the lab, he's got this female specimen chained to a table, and he proceeds to inject her with the same serum that we assume he was using on the one rat that seemed okay. He gets a reaction in her vitals, but then suddenly she flatlines. Here's another question I'm going to pose to you guys. He injects her with something, I'm guessing the virus, and it brings her back. It puts her back into her sleeping, sedated, but reanimated, state of the mutant. When it flatlines, my question is, are these mutants alive or dead? Because this one does flatline and he quote unquote brings her back.
They are alive. I believe they are alive because they do indeed have a heartbeat, if I remember correctly, and it's very rapid, as well as the breathing and the internal body temperature. So I believe that it's like it is that they're alive, because I mean, as we saw, the one that died in the sunlight, dies and then is dead.
This is the first thing other than the damage from the sunlight that gives you the cue. This is not zombies. We are not talking about mindless, reanimated, dead corpses. That is not what this virus is. That is not what the movie's about. That's not what the story's about.
And nor then would they be vampires, because vampires are the undead or dead. They're
Right.
not, they don't have a heartbeat.
These
Okay.
are human beings who are still alive, are still breathing, do still have a heartbeat. They've just become very mutated, different from us human beings.
Okay.
Different being the key word.
Gotcha.
Not sick or dead.
That makes sense. So he's making video journals, and he mentions that the virus is called the Crippen virus, which again harkens back to the Emma Thompson, Dr. Crippen in the beginning. Made me wish that there was more of her and what was going on there with that story. That would have been wildly interesting to me. We get another flashback of Robert putting his family on a helicopter. And here's the thing that struck me about this scene. When they're going through the gate and they're scanning everybody with that big piece of equipment that almost looks like a forehead thermometer thing, but it says pass with a green light and it goes beep, 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 or it goes and it's red and it says fail. And I'm like, what is this? And they all have masks on.
That scene really rewatching it now. Originally, it didn't really seem too much to me. Like I was like, oh yes, this is scary, but it's not relatable. Now rewatching that a couple days ago, I kind of was like, wow, like it hit different now. Like it's not the same anymore.
Yeah, there's something to do. I believe Neville mentions it. There's something about the pupil, and this is what I would assume is some sort of indicator of infection. Is they're doing like a retinal scan and temperature check, because if your temperature too high, boom, you fail.
Okay.
So yeah, and the idea that you could get it wrong and doom someone.
Oh, I know, because the first
And-
reading they get on her is fail, but then the second one is pass.
Let me tell you something. I had to go to the DMV back in August, and after standing outside in the 100-degree sun, I failed my first temperature check, and said, I've been
Oh.
baking in the sun. Could you please check again? And she checked again on the side of my head and I passed. That idea of like, you could doom somebody through doing that too quickly or not having it placed just right, that's really scary. And that almost happens to his wife.
Yep. So they hand the puppy off to him as they board the helicopter and start to pull away. And then we cut away from that flashback. He wakes up and he goes ahead and watches a taped newscast that he's got of reports for when the virus was updating, the news was happening before, I guess, the apocalypse happens. And they're talking about how Dr. Neville's going to figure it all out. So I don't know. I get maybe that's inspirational for him to rewatch that and remind him that it's important that he find the cure.
I got the impression that it may have had something to do with that, but it maybe had mostly to do with the fact that, you know, he's kind of trying to do this keeping myself sane thing. And it's like maybe like if part of his morning routine when the world was normal was watching the news while he ate his breakfast, then he has all these old tapes of news so that he can kind of feel like he's doing that again.
Right.
Full of good points today. I may have to change my opinion on this movie.
I try to be.
He and Sam are at the pier again at midday, and we hear his broadcast again in voiceover. I did feel like this part of the movie drags a little. He's driving, he's talking to Sam, he tells him it's his birthday.
At this point, if you're not emotionally invested with Will Smith, yeah, the movie's gonna drag. If you are emotionally invested with him and what he's going through, to me, this scene is like it's so sad. It's so heartbreaking the way that he's talking to Sam, like Sam is his wife or his kid. Like, I don't like surprises, so you better not be planning a surprise party for me back at home. Like, you're just seeing yet another example of how bad his isolation and loneliness is, and why he treats Sam more like a person than a dog. Oh my God, it's so sad to me. Like, and Will Smith's performance starting at this point to me is just like, holy shit. It's absolutely heartbreaking to see how lonely he is.
The scene, I think that follows that one is where we see him out on this like plane, and he's golfing off of the edge of it and like just into the streets and parking lots and stuff. And the camera kind of pans out and it shows this like really wide shot of him in this big, huge empty area with all these aircrafts and cars and things, and it's just so empty. So after all that, like all that emotional stuff with him and his birthday talking to Sam, seeing that and just being like, oh yeah, reminder, you're alone. It's just kind of like, ouch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point. So as he's driving, he sees his buddy Fred in his noticeable sweatshirt, red or pink or whatever it is. It's bright, you can see it, standing out in the street. And he starts to lose it because he doesn't understand, because he knows he didn't put Fred there. So somebody did. He starts yelling and freaking out and shooting wildly, just spraying bullets and shoots Fred dead. if he could be. And then he ends up stepping on a trap that has been laid for him, and he is yanked up wildly by his foot and smacks his head on the ground and passes out as he's strung up. And we see Sam right by his side barking like Sam knows something's not right. So he passes out, and then he gets awakened by his watch alarm going off, letting him know that it's sunset. It's getting dark out there, and Sam's barking at him. God bless him. Or her, Sam, she just wouldn't leave him.
Of course not.
Why are you taking your dog everywhere with you, you mofo?
Yeah, it's
Sam's
about to
right
bite
there.
you in the ass.
So it's dark now, and he manages to cut himself down. And as he's falling, the knife accidentally, he stabs himself in his thigh with the knife. He starts to drag himself back to his car. They get attacked and jumped by an infected dog, I'm guessing.
Looks like a dog to me.
It was kind of CG, so I couldn't tell what he was supposed to be.
I believe it's supposed to be the virus makes you lose all your hair as one of the symptoms. So I believe it's supposed to be a dog that's lost all of its hair. That's why he's so funky looking, on top of the bad CGI.
Okay. So yeah, they get attacked. And of course, Sam is attacked because he saves him from this beast. Sam's injured. So he takes him back to the lab and injects him with that serum stuff, hoping it'll help. But Sam turns and he has to put Sam down. He kills Sam. Now, I'm going to tell you, I paused it, got up, walked around, bawled for 15 fucking minutes straight. I was not invested in this movie except for the damn dog. And you take the one character away from me. Damn you, filmmakers. I bawled like an idiot.
That scene is just really hard to watch, I think, where Will Smith just does so well, I think, really showing us the emotion that his character would be feeling, you know? Like, I feel like he does such a good job making it feel real, and like he's actually losing a member of his family right now. And that pain that he must be feeling, the fact that he had to put her down himself, it's just like, you can really see that in his facial expressions when the camera is panning up to him while that's happening.
I hope he's feeling pain. It's his own damn fault that Sam got bit. Damn it.
So
Suffer.
in my opinion, unfortunately for Sam, Miss, that is sort of, I think, the broader point and why Sam's presence is relevant in the movie. What's happened to humans, like I said, if you look at it from the standpoint of we accidentally triggered a new step of evolution here. Humans have developed in a different way. Only a select few of them have. At that point, you're talking survival of the fittest. If Sam was a wild dog out in the streets with no human looking after her, she would have become one of them a long time ago. The only reason Sam is still kicking and is still by Robert's side is because he has been protecting her. So of course it's dumb decision making on his part that leads to her demise. She probably wouldn't even still be Sam if it weren't for him keeping her that way. His stupid choice in constantly bringing her everywhere and putting her in danger is because of where his brain is at evolution wise. And so, yes, it's going to lead to poor Sam's demise, and which I think is sort of the point, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, he buries Sam in the next scene and then pops some pills to, I guess, numb the pain, which we would all be feeling, no lie. He makes his way to the video store now by himself, where he goes ahead and starts talking to the female mannequin because he says he promised a friend he would. That got me too. I started, a little tear went down. I went, oh shit, am I gonna have to pause it again?
This scene really got me also, like almost more so than the scene where he had to kill his dog. And that's kind of amazing considering for me, just, I mean, watching him try to talk to the mannequin and he says to it, will you please talk to me? Will you please respond to me? And obviously, you know, it's a mannequin. It's not going to, it doesn't. And you can see like that pain on his face of like in deep down, he knows that he's fucking losing it at this point.
That's a great observation. And I'm going to give you one little thing here. In all the sadness and everything that had been happening and all the bawling, I did actually finally start to laugh in this scene, genuinely, because I was noticing behind him was a big wall of adult movies.
I never noticed that. That's funny.
Oh, another thing for you on your next rewatch, along with the Batman.
There you
Superman.
go.
Adult movies. And I thought, what video store is this?
For all we know, us West Coasters, this is a normal thing on the East Coast, normal thing in New York City to be at the neighborhood family video store and they got a whole wall full of adult films right there. Hey, if you're not smart enough to keep your kid out of that section, bad on you, homie. I do have to say, jumping back here just a minute, even on my first viewing, how much it struck me when Robert is essentially drawn in by Fred the mannequin and trapped. It struck me the first viewing like, holy shit, they learned his maneuver. They did what he did. Even on my first viewing, I instantly was like, oh my God, they're not mindless monsters. These are definitely not zombies because they took a tip out of his playbook and just pulled the same shit on him. Yep. And used Fred the mannequin to lure his ass in. So we kind of jumped past that. And that even struck me on my first viewing was that, oh my God, they're smart. They did what he did to him and it worked. But
That's
yeah,
a great point.
The adult videos in the video store, I've never noticed that before because I'm too busy looking at Will Smith's face and wanting to just hand him an Oscar in this moment because he's so fucked up and sad right now.
If
And
anybody's
it's
going to get an
heartbreaking.
Oscar in this, it should be Fred.
I agree.
He moved from one spot to another.
He worked that red hoodie like nobody's business.
So Robert's all very upset, understandably, over what has happened. And he decides he's going to go out with a bang and he's going to take as many of those fuckers with him as he can. So he hops into his car and just starts to go kamikaze and run them all down at dark in this herd of them. He's obviously lost it. He's not thinking clearly. He's done. The car gets overturned and he's almost attacked by the leader, the alpha one of the pack. We hear a woman's voice. He's being rescued with a bright, I guess, UV light that she must have, a portable UV light, because they freak out and the light is bright. So again, with the weird vampire sun theory, I didn't understand, but he gets rescued. So he's in the car with this person nodding off, and we get more flashback. His family is taking off in the helicopter. Missiles are fired nearby to shoot the bridges, break them in half so people can't cross. And in this chaos, another helicopter gets overrun by people/mutants who are hanging on and trying to attack it. It spins through the air and it's just about to smack into the helicopter holding his family, and we cut away and he wakes up. I don't like that this movie's PG-13 because we didn't get anything there. I wanted the impact, I wanted the explosion, I wanted the scariness of the situation, and I feel like they had to dial it back quite a bit to get the PG-13.
My thought on that is you're learning what happened to his wife and his daughter through his memories of it and what led up to it. So if you are Robert, the last thing you want to do is relive the moment of impact, the moment that happened. They're giving you just enough through his memory that you understand what happened, but you wouldn't want to be rethinking the accident over and over. You'd want to be thinking about the last moments where you saw them alive. And so from his perspective, that's
The
what we're seeing.
accident story.
Exactly. What do you think, Jay?
The way that the memories are presented to us throughout the story, where we kind of see it a little bit in the beginning where he's grabbing them and putting them into a van. And then much later, we start seeing the rest of it where he's loading them onto a helicopter trying to get through that security area. And then after that, we see this. And so in between these, there's quite a bit of space. And I think that's because he has clearly some really bad PTSD and maybe has repressed these memories in some way.
I see what you mean. And like I said, if actually seeing the helicopters crash is clearly the event that caused him to have some sort of PTSD, you're not going to want to face that traumatic event head on by seeing it. So I think it's a choice on purpose to not show the crash, not for a ratings issue.
Now, see, for me though, as a you're a filmmaker, make this a good film for me. Like I'm the viewing audience. I want to see scary, exciting. It's a horror / sci-fi thriller.
In a way, I do sort of agree with you here, because the way that they kind of didn't give you that, but then they give you the ending that comes with the movie. Like, for example, when you watch the movie on, say, Netflix, the ending that it shows you with that one. I know we'll get to that later, but I did want to say that it seemed to me that ending, they were kind of just trying to give it a Hollywood dazzle. They were like, ooh, how can we make this like a picture perfect movie ending?
Some pizzazz.
Yes. So it's like
they do that to make up for the lack of pizzazz throughout. Is that what you're saying, Jay?
Yeah.
The studio was like, give me something, and they threw it in at the end.
It's a little irritating though, because what you're saying is what I kind of wanted to tie that to. So if they're willing to kind of, go this far, this whole balls to the walls, let's do like a Hollywood ending that doesn't necessarily fit or seem right for the story, but it's something that we know the people want to see. Why wouldn't they also do that in this case, like you're saying?
And I think the problem is, and I'm finding something, a little bit of a common thread here with these movies, Miss, that you are like, I vehemently hate. A big part of it is when a movie has been mislabeled and mismarketed, and you went into it with the expectation that you should have and did not get what you were promised, and that leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth. And that's like a common thing I'm seeing with these movies that you hate, Miss, and I completely get it.
Tracks.
Definitely. I am someone who I actively avoid what category a movie is, what genre it's supposed to be, any trailers, anything about what the story is, what's the monster. Like, I avoid all of that. So I enjoy going into a movie not knowing what I'm going to get. Is it going to be a family drama or is it going to be horror? Either way, I'm not disappointed. Shame on the studios for mismarketing movies like this and then doing what Jay's saying they do, which is go in and throw this big bang Hollywood ending on it to kind of fix the problem. No. Yeah. So I feel you with that, Miss. You're not getting what you were promised with this movie. And the helicopter thing is just one more thing that's going to piss you off.
Yep, that's legit. So we cut to daylight and he notices waking up that his leg wound is all sewn up and healing nicely. Shrek is on the TV. He grabs a gun because he hears noise in the kitchen. He goes in and for a quick split second, he sees his wife and daughter and then realizes that it's another woman and a little boy, that she's made breakfast for them and found him some antibiotics upstairs. And she says, I'm Anna and the boy is Ethan. Okay. You guys have made a really good case for why he's the way he is at this point. But again, I wrote in my notes, it's only been barely 3 years and the fool's acting like it's been 13 years. Really? You forgot how to completely relate to people, especially since you've been giving yourself Fred to talk to and you've had Sam. I didn't buy that his complete weird shift here where he completely forgets how to relate to a human. I didn't buy it. Sorry.
I can agree
I
with that. I think the time gap should have been more significant, like bigger, maybe, in order to back that part of it up.
I agree with that, but I think the part of the problem here is that the way they've been telling the story with the large chunks of silence and just visualizing what Robert is going through, you're not getting enough of an idea of just how genuinely fucked up things are in his head before this happened, while it was happening, and now in the 3 years since. You aren't getting enough of a picture. How big of a role did he play in starting this? How much responsibility does he feel for creating this version of the measles virus? Maybe he was a part of it and he's been consumed with guilt. Like you were saying earlier, why is he going and doing the radio if he thinks that there are no survivors? Part of him thinks there could be. Now he's confirming that there are, but he refuses to believe it.
Yeah,
It's what he was hoping for
She
every
tells
day.
him, we heard your message.
Right.
Yeah, she says,
So,
we went looking for
yeah,
you.
clearly his psyche is way more confused and messed up than we've even seen, because he refuses to believe that she's real and that she's there. He's been talking to mannequins for 3 years.
I wasn't like this, but you guys were totally invested in the drama and the story and Will Smith and what's happening. And you bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. You guys were in. Whereas I wasn't so much. But when this happens, it completely throws a wrench in it. And I was like, what are you doing? Now we've shifted from his story to, oh, hi, we're here and there's a survivor colony and we're going to go and you should come with us. He wants to deny it. He freaks out and says, no, everybody's dead. That's impossible. There's no colony. I don't understand why they threw in the woman and the child aspect into this. I feel like the movie would have been just fine without it, and they kind of annoyed me.
I can agree with you there, but I do think that they were necessary in order to create this sort of stupid theatrical ending that they insisted on having. Because it's somebody who can, like, who he can say, here, take this vial of the serum and tell them my name, tell them what I did for everyone, like, you know, all this stuff basically, so they could have this dramatic moment where, you know, she goes and then she can tell them about his legacy and stuff.
If you think about, if you take that ending out of it and go with the original ending, the director's ending, their appearance here does also track and make sense, because clearly he's been going through the motions with this whole radio thing and he didn't really think there were survivors, and now he's been smacked in the face with the fact that there are, and in fact it's a woman and a child who are triggering memories of your wife and your kid. It's bringing him back around to the whole point of you surviving is that you want to connect with other people, so you needed to be careful what you wished for. You're getting it and now you're freaking out about it, and that's because of the damage that's been done to him mentally in the last 3 years. But without these people showing up, he wouldn't come to the realizations he comes to here in the end.
I did like what a little tough little bastard Ethan is, though, because when Robert freaks out and throws his plate and starts screaming at them about everything, the little kid backs up and he grabs the knife and he's holding the knife and he's like, he's ready. He's ready for action. You go, boy.
To me, it's kind of sad to imagine what Anna and Ethan have maybe been through up to this point, because she specifically does not refer to him as her child or her son. You get the idea that they've been through some shit. They found each other. She's kept him alive, protected him, much the way Robert tried to keep Sam alive, because children wouldn't survive on their own in this world. And so, yeah, this kid's probably seen some things. He's ready to grab that knife and do some damage. They've probably been through it up to this point.
Well, after Robert composes himself, he rejoins them and he starts weirdly quoting the film Shrek for like literally 15 seconds. I was like, this is weird. What is happening?
We do have to remember he's incredibly socially awkward at this point for whatever reason. So like, I think it maybe has something to do with that. Maybe he's trying to, you know, relate to the kid or make the kid laugh, but instead he kind of just creates this tense, awkward moment.
What I get from it is it was probably one of his baby girl's favorites. They probably watched it a lot together. He's probably had that movie playing 3 or 4 times a day, every day since she died, to the point where he knows the entire thing by heart. And to me, that the idea of what he's standing there doing, it is heartbreaking.
It is very sad.
To me. Because I just picture him watching it with his daughter, and then now since she's been gone, watching it every day, missing the way he felt when he had her there with him. So that's why he knows the damn movie backward and forward. So it's sad to me.
It's awkward and melancholy at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Anna and Robert have a talk, and she calls those mutants the Dark Seekers, and explains to him that she and Ethan are clearly immune, and asks him if he is the Dr. Robert Neville, and he says, well, yeah. She says, why don't you leave in the morning and come with us? If we go at dawn, we'll make it to Vermont, where the survivor colony is. Cut to Anna going down to the lab. Robert's down there working, and she gets to see what he's been doing. So then they decide to take Ethan up to his daughter's room to put him to bed in there, where Anna finds a picture of his daughter, and he explains that they named her Marley after Bob Marley. And they go downstairs, and they spend what I felt was way too much time during this sci-fi / horror movie explaining Bob Marley to Anna, who's never heard of him, heard of his son, and plays the music and explains Bob Marley's message when he wasn't beating women, what he thought about the world. I thought it was just awkward. The whole scene was just weird to me.
I think the point of what he is trying to say, I suppose, to her in that scene, or I guess what we, the audience, are supposed to gather from it, is that he clearly feels very responsible for what happened, and he feels an obligation to stay and to fix it. He thinks that if he hopes enough and continues to try enough, he can make change. And that's something Bob Marley was very adamant about. I think that's the point of that. Aside from that, I do understand what you're saying. I think that scene did drag on a little bit. Even as somebody who was quite enjoying Will Smith's performance, I was kind of like, I'm not entirely sure what the relevance of this is after he wasn't talking about Bob Marley anymore.
Yeah, I think it's a bad choice on the filmmaker's part. A little too much, too long with the exposition. We get your point. It could have been summed up in a 1-minute conversation.
Yes.
Well, then they proceed to lock up the house, iron shutters and everything. And Anna asks him once again, you've got to come with us to Vermont. He explains she's the reason she's there is because God told her to come. She's there for a reason. He rants that that's nonsense because, okay, here we go. More stuff I have an issue with, guys. He rants that that's nonsense because there are 6 billion people on Earth. 5.4 died from the virus, leaving 12 million people with immunity. Again, why don't you think there could be a survivor colony? You just literally said half a second ago, 12 million people would have had immunity. So what? Explain that to me.
In my mind, again, the book is probably very good at giving you all of this. And then I think it's a bad translation of what is probably a really well-written book. Because I think the idea here is Robert is not only a scientist and a doctor, he clearly is a big old pessimist. In his mind, there are very few people who were among those immune who have been smart enough, tactical enough, strong enough to survive and not get killed by these things. In his mind, his pessimistic point of view, ain't no way millions of people who are immune have survived in the world. Look how hard it's been for him, and he had all these tools
I know, but
at his
it's like,
disposal.
fool, literally. You think you're the last survive, like singular, like you're it?
I'm not gonna lie, you do bring up a good point, honestly. I
Come
mean,
on.
given that information, I suppose, yeah, he should assume that there is at least a handful of people that still are alive. There has to be, because it's
Right.
not as if he is the most fit for survival man on the planet. Like, he can't possibly be that ignorant.
Which again, to me, gives me a clue what is probably more of an overall theme in the book. The idea that these people were essentially taking it upon themselves with all their medical know-how to play God in a way. That's probably part of it. He is so egocentric that he doesn't imagine other people have had the skills and tools to survive the way he has. So maybe it's an ego problem on his part. You know what I'm saying?
I got a $100
Like-
bill in my pocket, Nick, and I'm not buying what you're selling.
No, what I'm saying is that's probably like a much deeper, complex issue in the book that they did not translate properly into this movie at all.
Maybe.
My guess is that that is a thing, and that's why. And then they didn't translate it properly into a movie, and you're left with this hole in the character that doesn't make any sense.
So who do we blame for that? Screenwriters?
Yeah, probably a lot of the people behind this film. Yeah,
You know
bad
me,
decisions.
I want to write that firmly worded email to somebody.
I think
All
it's. I would challenge you to read the book and tell me if that's true.
I honestly kind of want to. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Me too.
Okay. So they hear noises outside. Robert looks out and sees a bunch of those dark seekers heading their way, turns on all these big lights. I don't know if they're UV lights or just regular, but they're super bright. He grabs a switch box, which he had sitting nearby, luckily, and he sets off a large quantity of explosions in rapid succession right outside. He runs upstairs to find Anna and Ethan, and he gets attacked by, I think it's the alpha male. He chases him out of the house by shooting at him, and then he finds Anna and Ethan hiding in a room where there's a dark seeker messing with the ceiling, and he tells them to be quiet, and he shoots the dark seeker. Any thoughts on any of that? Because I thought it was all just silly. No tension for me.
I wouldn't necessarily, call it scary. I think a lot of the problem is with the bad CGI, though. That just really is the biggest mood killer for a lot of these action-packed scenes where they show these mutant creatures, like in full detail and like attacking main characters and things like that, where you get to really get a look at them. I think that the bad CGI just really draws away from those scenes. So I understand why you would think that.
I agree. Again, I'm at this point watching the movie not looking for scares. So I'm not feeling let down and disappointed with that, because as a viewer, I know I'm not watching a horror movie.
Yeah.
So I'm not under that impression anymore. But if that's what you came and paid your damn money for this ticket for, yes, you're going to be let down by this really poor CGI, and there is not a lot of tension. It's not scary. I agree with that.
Thank you for that. That is one thing that you and I, being Gen Xers, we grew up on movies that practical effects were everything. And then so when you see a movie with CGI, not only I lower my expectations, but then when it's bad CGI, kills it for me. I mean, I hate to pick apart a movie for that when there's other elements that you guys can find that you love about it.
For me, 100%, the only redeeming thing is, in my mind, given what he was given to work with, Will Smith's performance in this movie just absolutely redeems it in my mind. And I love it for the emotional, wonderful performance I feel he gives. And I can look past everything else about it that was disappointing, because I am here for his performance.
So they all flee down to the lab where they see more of those dark seekers coming. They find that the test subject, the female, is being cured or has been cured. They break in the dark seekers, and so Robert and Anna and Ethan get behind the glass door. The dark seekers start freaking out, trash in the lab. The one head one is the leader. He's banging his head on the glass and freaking out. Robert is yelling at him. He can save him. He got the cure. I got you. Stop acting crazy. I don't understand why they have the wherewithal to set a trap for him and track him down, but they can't understand the English he is speaking to them in that moment. I don't understand the creatures themselves.
I have to say they do. However, they don't give a rat's ass what he has to say. They are not listening to him. They do not believe him, because, again, whether we're heading into the theatrical ending or the alternate ending makes all the difference in the world here.
But
because
I'm going with the theatrical ending.
Right. So heading into the theatrical ending,
they're just
basically
flipping out and not listening.
No,
to
the way you can see it is because they're not there to hear what he has to say. They're there because he has been murdering them en masse. He has been hunting them down and trapping them and abducting them. They're there to get one of their own back, who they can now see is alive. They are not interested in what he has to say. They don't want him to cure or save them from anything. Just give us our family member back and fuck off. That's where they're at. So no, they're not listening. Either ending, that's the case. They don't care what he has to say. And he realizes that, like, they're not listening. They don't care.
Well,
and then you have the fork, the split off into the endings here.
Yeah, for a moment, everything goes kind of quiet for Robert and still, and he hears his daughter's voice say, look at the butterfly. And it's kind of a flashback, which we didn't mention earlier. The daughter, when she's on the helicopter, puts her hands in the shape of a little butterfly and says, oh, butterfly, daddy. So he remembers that. And then he looks over and sees Anna and Ethan huddling in the corner, and he sees she has a butterfly tattoo on her neck. So here's God's plan, all coming together, I guess. And he realizes he should give Anna the blood sample from the cured Darkseeker.
He also notices in this moment that the glass that the Alpha has been throwing himself against has actually, the cracks have taken on the shape of a butterfly.
Oh,
It
I
is-
didn't notice that.
Yes, hugely important. This is not something about God's plan. This is it triggering in his brain, like, holy shit. Hello, metamorphosis, butterflies. This is all falling into place. These people, these dark seekers are people, and to them, they have simply metamorphosized. They are not sick and they don't need to be cured. That's why the butterfly is significant.
Well, he decides to give Anna the cured blood, like I said, and he locks them away in a little hidey hole and tells them to stay there until dawn. And he pulls a grenade out of his pocket or a drawer, and he proceeds to blow himself up and all of the dark seekers in the lab. Now, I'm no explosives expert. But I'm guessing there was a lot of flammable shit in that lab, because ain't no grenade making an explosion like that. Shrapnel, yes. Explosion of fiery hell, no.
You would have a lot of very flammable things in a lab like that.
Yeah.
You would have a lot of
must have.
alcohol. You would have sterilization stuff, like lots of chemicals that are flammable for sure. In fact, my question about it is, how are Anna and Ethan safe from the explosion?
I was going to say the
Yes.
same thing. That's a little bit of a plot hole. He kind of shoves them into this weird little vent and tells them to stay there, implying that it's kind of a dead end. So if that's the case, then you really mean to
How were
tell
they-
me that it couldn't get through the, grates of the vent.
And we know they survived, because then it cuts to Anna and Ethan driving on beautiful countryside. They come to a large gated community and waltz right in. Anna hands the vial over to somebody, and we get voiceover where she basically says, Robert found the cure. He gave his life to defend it. We're his legacy. He's a legend. Fade to black. The end. I was so happy that the 1 hour, 40-minute runtime was over. Fade to black. Turn that shit off and never watch it again.
So I really, really disliked this ending because I felt it was kind of the easy way out. It was their way of kind of being like, oh, perfect. It's such a, tear-jerking sacrificial moment for Will Smith's character, and it's just perfect. Like it's so soap opera-y and dramatic, in my opinion.
Why do you not throw the fucking grenade and jump into the hidey hole with them?
Why
Why you gotta
exactly.
sacrifice yourself? You're the smart one that did
To
the
me,
cure.
it doesn't really make 100% sense. It seems like they kind of just thought it would be what the audience wants to see.
Yeah.
Right. I hate it because everything he does with the grenade and all that, and then her getting the cure to the people who can do something with it, it totally negates that realization he starts to have about the butterfly. Why have we had all this symbolism, and what is he supposed to be learning as a person? What is the point of this story? With this ending, they negate all of that, and it pisses me off. That is why I pretend this ending does not exist.
I agree.
Well, this was the ending that was the theatrical version, the original version, and there is an alternate ending out there. I did watch it on YouTube. I did not take notes. So, Nick, if you want to take the lead on this, please walk us through the alternate ending and where it pivots.
So yeah, you've got the alpha slamming himself into the glass despite Neville screaming at him, I can cure you, I can save you, I can help you. And then he has this moment where he hears his daughter's voice, Daddy, look, a butterfly, and he sees the glass is in the shape of a butterfly. He doesn't look at Anna and see her tattoo. It's not about them. It's about what he's realizing about these creatures. It dawns on him that they are simply a human engineered evolution of humanity. And when he gets that, there's this moment of eye contact with him and the alpha where he's like, there's a person in there. There's a functioning human being in there. What's up, Jay?
Kind of glazed over this part that's important about the girl on the table that he grabbed having a butterfly tattoo on her arm.
Oh, I
It's
didn't even notice that.
Yeah, it wasn't Anna has a tattoo. It's this girl that's his test subject. Seeing the tattoo, seeing the butterfly makes him realize these weren't human beings before. They still are human beings. Who the hell has he been to think it's his place to say that they are not and try to do what he's been doing to them? All of this occurs to him, and he realizes all they want is their person. They want their family member back. He opens the door trusting that they're not going to do anything at this point once they see what he's doing. And he's right. right? They start calming down. They stop freaking out. They're not trying to hurt anybody. He pushes her out there. It looks like he re-injects her with the virus so that she will become like them again, not sick, but like them again. Her heart rate starts to increase. Her temperature goes up. He leans in and the alpha goes forehead to forehead with her in what is obviously, like a, oh my God, I'm so glad you're okay moment. And Neville's just standing there taking all this in and he's gobsmacked. He's like dumbfounded that this is happening. And he swoops her up and screams at Neville like he's pissed at him. And then he says, I'm sorry. And at that moment, it vocalizes again, but not in such an angry way, as a sort of acknowledgement of, I accept your apology. And then they just walk out, they leave. That's that. And Neville leaves with Anna and Ethan peacefully. And the voiceover is very different. And there's a huge point to it. Instead of the voiceover being about, he's a legend and he's going to cure and save humanity. If you look at what they're saying as they're leaving here, you're seeing New York City is peaceful and tranquil. You're seeing the mother lion and the cub again, which were relevant. The idea that he had no right to kill that deer. The mother lion came in. He's realized again, I had no right to intervene with what's happening to these people. So as they're leaving, you have Anna's voiceover and she's, saying that this time, rather than her talking about we've got the cure, there is hope, and Dr. Neville's going to be a legend, Anna's voiceover simply says to all the people out there, like they're broadcasting this on the radio, head north where people like you will be congregating. You're not alone and there is hope. And that's it.
I like that ending way better.
Meaning,
Me too.
yeah, they are going to accept their new place in the hierarchy of the world. They're going to accept their new place as these elite immune humans. Because if you remember, one of the things Anna explained to Neville that he couldn't accept, outside of what's happening to you here in New York City, things are pretty calm. She said that, indicating to us that if you're not going around actively fucking with these people the way Neville is, they don't mess with you. They want nothing to do with the handful of people who aren't infected. You're not like us. Why would they bother with you?
So then that also leads me into, they are not vampires or zombies or
Right.
creatures that are running around killing humans. This should not have been labeled a horror movie in any way.
Yes.
This is a drama that would have played far better on my palate had it had the original ending.
Yes. 100% agree.
Yeah, maybe I would have a completely different view. Unfortunately, that was not the viewing experience that I had.
You can never take away the first time you see a movie, unfortunately.
No, ma'am, you cannot. All right, so that leads me perfectly to my first of 3 questions to wrap this up. So question number 1, it's based on a novel, and then there are several iterations that have been done from that novel before this movie. And I want to know if you know anything about them or have seen any of them. The first one I could find was in 1964, Vincent Price did The Last Man on Earth. I've seen it a long time ago, so I don't really remember it, but I remember I loved it. It was a more faithful dramatic, not a horror movie. And it actually has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 79% critics and 69 audiences. Have either of you seen that version?
No, I haven't. I didn't even know it existed.
I recommend you seek it out. It's a great, great Vincent Price movie.
I remember seeing it once upon a time, a long time ago, never made the connection because it was so, I think I was probably a teenager when I saw it and didn't pay too close of attention. It's like, oh, Vincent Price movie I haven't seen. Okay, cool. But yeah, like I said, that to me lends credibility to the idea that we're talking about great source material that in the right hands can be very effective. And that's what this movie should have been. They shouldn't have tried to market it as a CGI monster horror movie. That's not what it's supposed to be. And that's not what you get.
Like I said, I did love the Vincent Price version, but then I didn't care so much for the next version that came out. It was 1971, The Omega Man, starring Charlton Heston. It is no Soylent Green, people. It is no Planet of the Apes.
No.
It is not good, right?
Right.
I've never seen it.
Skip it.
Don't bother. I would never do that to you. I would never tell you to watch that movie.
Now,
Never subject me to that kind of torture.
what I
Exactly.
will tell you both to seek out if you have not seen it was yet another version that was done the same year that I Am Legend was released in 2007, was a direct to DVD and also played on the Sci-Fi Channel called I Am Omega, starring Mark Dacascos. Yes, Mr. Dacascos, which we love in B Movie Land.
Oh, really?
And it is excellent for a DVD movie.
I have never heard of it.
Oh, please look it up. Now you've got 2 for your homework, guys. Look them up.
I will definitely look that one up, not only because Mark Dacascos, yum, but because if it came out roughly the same time, my guess is people got wind of this movie and went, oh, no. They're going to fuck that up, and decided to make their own. So it's probably a direct response to this movie, and what a poor interpretation of what is probably a great book this movie ends up being.
Yeah, like I said, it's direct to DVD, but it is so good. Give it a chance. And that's for everyone out there, not just you guys. For everybody, seek it out. We need to give Mark Dacascos some love, and Vincent Price. Let's get the young kids watching those oldies but goodies again.
Why not?
So question number 2. We touched on this a little bit during it, and I don't want to make a big depressing conversation out of it, but I do want to ask, was it weird rewatching this right now in the middle of COVID?
Absolutely it was. And let me tell
triggering?
you, it was a little bit triggering for me personally. I don't know if you guys felt that way, but at least for me, especially the whole thing with one of the symptoms of the virus being the temperature, the bodily temperature increasing so much and them needing to scan you. The way that they do that, it's all just very much, I guess, given the current situation. So,
Mucho info. Yeah, it was a lot.
yeah.
Definitely. And I think the idea of the sense of isolation as someone who is a homebody, is an introvert, I was cool for the first like 4 or 5 months of this shit. I was fine.
Cool as a cucumber.
Netflix
Feel
and
that.
chill. I talk to my friends about as often as I normally do. I'm not going anywhere, whatever. I'm not going to Disneyland anymore. Big deal. I'm cool at home. It's fine. After about the 6-month mark, even someone who is such an introvert, it started to get to me. And that's, to me, what was so triggering with watching this movie. Was that's why it's his performance that always saved this movie for me. I wish Will Smith would have been in a better interpretation of this story, because he's a brilliant actor and he does incredible work even with this shoddy script. It's his isolation, his loneliness, the sadness, like that got to me so much because of COVID, because for the first time in my life, I feel isolated and lonely when I normally hate being around people.
All right, so on to question 3. And Nikki, as you know, I always save the best for last. Do you think that this film could have benefited from not killing the dog? No, just kidding. Just kidding. Do you think it could have benefited from an R rating and amping up some of the blood and gore? Or should it just be the PG-13 that it is? Call it a
Well,
day.
there are so many different things that they could have done to fix this movie. Obviously, I don't even know if that's necessarily where I'd begin if I said, how can we fix this movie that's got all these problems with it? So I think that it would definitely benefit the movie, but there are definitely other things like about it that I'd sooner change.
I think if the goal was to not have audiences feel the way you do, Miss, if the goal was we are marketing a horror movie, we need to make sure we deliver. Yes, they failed big fucking time by not amping up the horror, the scariness, the blood. Like, they did not play enough to that, and they chose to market it that that's what you were going to get, was a monster movie. Like Underworld, like vampire, zombie things. Like, no, they failed. They marketed it that way. They should have delivered. At least you would have gotten more bang for your buck when it came to that. I think on the whole, if the movie fails because they tried to market it as a horror movie, they didn't go enough into this is a human drama.
Great
so
point.
I see both ways, I guess.
Fair enough. All right. And on that note, we're going to wrap up our robust conversation of I Am Legend. I do want to say that if you're interested in checking it out again, it is currently available with the theatrical ending on Netflix, HBO Max, and Amazon. Also, seek out those others that we mentioned. I'm telling you, you will not regret it, except for the Charlton Heston one. Skip that one. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening to Let's Talk Turkeys. I want to thank my co-host, Nikki Flicks, and special guest, Jay, for joining me. Thank you, ladies.
Of course, it was a lot of fun.
You're welcome.
Bye. Hey listeners, Movie Miss here. Listen, I know you have a lot of options when it comes to podcasts, so thank you for listening to the show. I know everybody says this, but for a fledgling little show like ours that's just hanging on, we just finished season 4, we're rolling into season 5, it would really help us if you could subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Good Pods. We're also on Pandora, Audible, Amazon Music. It would really help us grow the show and reach more people if you could subscribe and then rate and review, which is really the key part of it. Make sure to be part of our bad movie conversation by following us on social media. Interact with me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Movie Miss, which is movie_miss. The show is on Instagram at Let's Talk Turkeys. Also on Blue Sky at Let's Talk Turkeys and Facebook. We're on X. I'm honestly not sure how much longer I'm going to have the show on there, but currently the handle is at Gobble Podcast. Get it? Gobble, 'cause like a turkey. You can also chat with like-minded bad movie lovers in our Facebook discussion group. And like I mentioned, we're rolling into season 5. It is 2025. The show, it's been a wild ride, still going strong. So if you have a movie that you would like to hear covered on the show, let me know by emailing direct at letstalkturkeys, all one word, at yahoo.com. Also, hit me up on socials if you want to be a guest on the show. Always looking for guests. I can assign you a movie, something we think is fun, or you can bring a movie that you think is a bad movie if it has a low Rotten Tomatoes score, or you just really don't like the movie but you like to talk about it. That's half the fun, I think. Again, this goes without saying, but I'm going to say it. Without you, the show wouldn't still be kicking around. So thank you so much for hanging in there with us.
I'll be back.
Get the fuck out of here! No, I cannot.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Why don't you get the fuck out of here? Get the fuck out of here. Oh, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go. Good girl.